Joining us now on Can I Media here at Banff from the Petroleum Safety Conference is Dr. Joe MacInnis, the final keynote speaker here. And it's interesting, as I was saying to you off camera moments ago, everybody else's speech I was able to boil down and figure out exactly where to go with it for 5 minutes. Your life itself has been quite an adventure, and good reason to talk for about an hour here.
Well,
at least.
Well, we've only got 4 minutes,
Yeah.
so we'll keep it tight.
Give us a little bit of a bio about yourself before we get into it.
Yeah, well, first let me just say it was fabulous being here. You know, as I said on the stage, I've got a little bit of the patch in me. I've learned a lot from this industry in the early years when I worked on offshore rigs in the North Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. So this is an opportunity to say thanks. But briefly, my bio is a guy who graduated just barely from medical school and who got fascinated with the ocean and worked with the Navy and studied physiology at first, then human performance, and more recently leadership. This is the area that is critical to me now, leadership in high-risk environments.
Right, and those high-risk environments have included the ocean, deep space as well, and war zones.
Yes. What I call these are high-risk environments, and they are places where if you don't have leadership, you're going to die. It's that simple. So I've written a book. It's called Deep Leadership. It's about the principles and pathways what we can learn from these extreme environments.
What you gave a number of points. What would you say are maybe a couple of common threads between leaders in these high-risk environments?
Well, today, to summarize today, I focused on four principles of leadership in high-risk environments. And the first one is emotional intelligence. We have to have that if we're going to be good leaders. And emotional intelligence is understanding yourself, your team, and the emotional field that we generate, and being careful how to use that, managing it carefully. And then I talked about empathy for the team, for the task, for the technology. And then I spoke a little bit about eloquence. Because if you're going to be a leader, you want to command the moment. And to command the moment, you have to command the language. And then finally, endurance. Having the strength and the stamina to succeed in the mission, no matter how long, how difficult. So those four principles, and then I mentioned 5 pathways that most leaders take to get there. They study other leaders, they find mentors, they build a library. They take these steps to allow them to improve their leadership skills. And I was hoping that those 4 principles and 5 pathways would resonate with these folks because of the stories that I embedded them in.
See, the stories that you told made me think that you were talking about superheroes.
Well, in fact, they are. I mean, Jim Cameron is a certified genius, but the guys, the members of his team are just ordinary people.
And just Jim Cameron, people may not know right off the bat who you're talking about.
Yeah, Jim Cameron, of course, is the James Cameron, who is the Hollywood film director whose films have won 21 Academy Awards. But he's also an acclaimed deep-sea explorer, led 8 expeditions. And Jim assembled a really good team. But they were all young, and some of them didn't have a lot of experience. They were just good at what they did. So, yeah, my argument is, these are dramatic stories I'm telling you, but that's just to get your attention. And so the principles of deep leadership can be applied in any workplace.
It seems often, we've talked to other people here at this conference, and they talk about leaders understanding their staff and letting and encouraging them to step forward. But so often that isn't the case. I spent 25 years in an industry, and I can tell you I didn't have very many leaders. I liked many of them, but they didn't come across as leaders. So how do you, I guess if you're an employee or you're somebody starting out, how do you look for that in somebody, or is it something that you look for? It's kind of a convoluted question.
Yeah. Well, the question is really, I think everybody has the potential to be a better leader than they are. And keep in mind that there's personal leadership, there's professional leadership, there's all kinds of leadership. But we all influence other people. We all try to encourage other people as coaches, as parents. So we're in the leadership game, like it or not, every single one of us. And my argument is that if you become aware of this, put on the leadership lens and start looking at other leaders and comparing them to yourself and building up your strengths and recognizing your weakness, we can all become better leaders. No question about it. It can be learned.
You talk about empathy and learning how to be a leader, yet there's some people that believe you have to lead with an iron fist because pointing people in the right direction is the way to get things done.
Sometimes you've got to have an iron fist. I mean, that's why there's only one captain on the ship. But most of the time, it's really something that it's more of a democracy. I was with the Special Forces a couple of days ago, and even they were talking about bottom-up leadership, which is a great term, because what that says is the leader who's leading the group is so confident of himself or herself that they ask for advice from the team about how to solve this particular problem. And the other thing I've learned about great leaders is they can toggle back and forth. They can become a leader and then a follower. This is very true of astronauts. They know when somebody else should be leading the team through this particular choke point. And they know when it's time for me to lead. Cameron's very good at this. I mean, he's not an iron-fisted leader at all. He is a very democratic guy. He wants the best idea, no matter where it comes from. So good leaders are sensitive to the ideas and innovations that come from other people.
And of course, all this ties into the conference because safety is key, and leaders have to be aware of what it takes to have a safe work environment.
Yeah, my argument is that safety is leadership, personal and professional leadership. People who see safety as something that is a shared value and who will build a culture by building the team in the culture, by being a good leader.
If we can we end just on your experience with the Titanic? Because, of course, that's something that James Cameron brought to many of us.
Yeah.
We've got the movie at home, and my wife and I have seen it many times. Tell us what that was like for you.
Well, I made 2 dives to the Titanic, and they were quite extraordinary. And if you've got a minute, I'm going to tell you a brief story. Are you okay?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I talked today about empathy, team empathy, and I learned about that firsthand from the guys who took me down to the Titanic. They were a French team. I was in a research sub. I was very concerned. I'd never been this deep before. I'm an alpha coward, as I mentioned, when it comes to risk and safety. So when we got to the bottom, we didn't go in to dive the ship, and I thought this was a bit strange. No, we stopped. The pilot, Jean-Michel, stopped the sub, and he brought out a small plastic container and put it in our laps. And I opened mine up, and it had a beautiful open-faced sandwich and a small bottle of Beaujolais. And I said to him, what is this? He said, Monsieur Joe, he said, we notice that you are a bit nervous, so we think it is time for the picnic.
Wonderful.
And that's what it was, but it was really more than that. It was a gift. It was a gift of confidence. This is team empathy. They knew I would be nervous. They were nervous on their first dive. So they were saying to me, look, we know you're nervous, but we're going to do something to give you confidence in ourselves and our technology. That's team empathy. That's what I took away from my first dive to the Titanic. I saw this incredible ship, and I'd read the stories, and it was thrilling and somewhat terrifying because, as I said today inside, Titanic is the mother of all accidents. It is something that we all think of, and it shouldn't have happened. It's a safety issue. So it was a great lesson for me to make that dive, and it was wonderful to be here with you guys today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been chatting with Dr. Joe MacInnis, Order of Canada Award winner as well, here on Can I Media.